Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Esoteric. I got a fun and exciting episode for you guys this Friday, because for the longest time, Time Crisis 2 on the Namco System 23 just did not emulate whatsoever, but with MAME .254 being released, you can now play Time Crisis 2 from start to finish. And I know what you're thinking, it is on the PlayStation 2, and that is true, but that's basically like a remake with completely enhanced graphics, and in my opinion, while an excellent version, it loses all the charm of the System 23 original. Before I get too far involved though, do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like and subscribe, that notification bell definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, we got a Patreon link down below as well. But getting right into it, this is the version of Time Crisis 2 I know from arcades and I absolutely love. And while I do have Time Crisis 2 on the PlayStation 2, it is such a polished version of this game that I think it loses all of the charm, because the System 23 and Super System 23 was the last bespoke in-house hardware Namco ever designed for arcades before transitioning over to either console hardware in a box or PCs in a box. This is running on its own proprietary 3D hardware, and it definitely has a look and a feel that you're probably not that familiar with in the home console space, because this is like PlayStation 1.8 or Dreamcast with a little bit of horsepower taken off the top. Honestly, it reminds me a lot of the 3DO M2 and Total Vice. But Time Crisis 2 is an absolute Hall of Fame first ballot level arcade game, and you know if you watch my channel I absolutely love light gun games and some 3D jank, so this has everything I need. Now this game never used to work in MAME. If you could even get it running in a certain version, it would either constantly crash or would have such bad graphical corruption it was basically unplayable. And now you can get from start to finish with just a few visual glitches. You're going to see some texture warping and issues here and there, but I'd say this is like 90% of the way to being perfect. And considering I haven't seen a Time Crisis 2 cabinet in arcades that's been working in years now, this is definitely some great preservation work. That's not to say I haven't seen a few Time Crisis 2 cabinets recently, but either the monitors were completely screwed up or the guns are so poorly calibrated it was impossible to play it. So this is the first time I've seen the arcade version of Time Crisis 2 in probably like 5 or 6 years, so I'm 100% here for this just based on nostalgia alone, because I absolutely love the generation of 3D arcade hardware that was custom designed by the developers. Namco, Konami, SNK all had boards on the market that used 3D that were proprietary designs that were made just for them, and obviously Sega with the model series leading the charge. And this is just such an incredible game to play. I would say this is my favorite Time Crisis of the entire series, Crisis Zone being a close second. I love the original as well, but for some reason I just put that in the number 3 spot. But leave me a comment down below and tell me where you rank these Time Crisis games, because this is just synonymous with arcades. If you're talking about light gun arcade shooting, you're talking about the House of the Dead, you're talking about Time Crisis. These are incredible games that stand the test of time, and having it available in MAME to play on the System 23 version is just that much fun, because if you can't tell looking around, this definitely is not PlayStation 2 levels of performance or visual quality, and when the game did come over to the PlayStation 2 with the GunCon 2, it got a complete revamp. But I will say in MAME here, everything's running exactly as I would expect it to, outside of some of those texture glitches. Now, fair warning, I have been told by a few members of my Discord that this game was not running full speed on their setup, so they have older CPUs. I am running this on an i9-12900K with an overclock on all cores, so I definitely have an advantage of getting this to run full speed. If you run it and it's not running at full speed, you could do a little bit of frame skipping, but maybe that means it might be time for an upgrade to your system. And this is the type of game that I absolutely do want to add to my collection one day, but finding System 23 hardware working is very challenging. It's not the most unreliable hardware ever, but it definitely, you're going to see more broken examples for repair for sale than you're going to see actual units that work. Just plug them in and go ahead and play. And if you've never seen any of my videos, now I play light gun games at home. Collecting arcade PCBs for light gun gaming is a chore, and you have to be dedicated, leaving something like this, MAME running it, being the preferential way that I would say 95% of people are going to pick up and play the arcade version of Time Crisis 2. Now there might be a few graphical glitches here, but the sound emulation is perfect. Listen for 45 seconds and I'll be right back.
I knew it. These maniacs have got the military satellite, and they're moving it by train.
We better get going. There's no time to lose.
Look over there.
Let's go!
So yeah, as far as sound emulation is concerned, it sounds perfect in my ear, but leave me a comment down below and tell me if you hear anything that isn't right. And you will see as that sports car comes in, the model's definitely missing a lot of the polygons, and that is going to happen. I am sure that this is going to get updated and reworked in the future, because so many things have been happening on the MAME front recently. Namco System 10, this game right here. It seems like a lot of those games that haven't been working recently are getting improved. Things like Hyper Neo Geo 64 emulation. Some games went from not playable completely to now being able to be enjoyed, and that's why I love doing videos like this. It's not just that I get to talk about Time Crisis 2, it's that I get to talk about video game preservation and history and the developers that are keeping these games alive. But if I was entertaining a Time Crisis retrospective, I'd be curious if you're interested in it, so leave me a comment down below, give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down on a retrospective for this series, because I have been mulling it over. Now you will see in stage 2 that that texture issue, or those polygons warping around, is going to get a little bit more severe, but I still don't think anything that I'm seeing here makes this game quote-unquote unplayable for people. It is fun, it's action-packed, it's fast, and it has that janky look I love. And I will say the characters in this game, the lead characters, both look like hairless apes in their face models. Definitely did not have a great handle on modeling human faces here. But hey, you can't really fault them. This was definitely still the early days of 3D, especially in arcades. You know, we hadn't been doing it for that many years. What the great part about this emulating is that Time Crisis 2, it's just an absolutely outstanding game. All of the set pieces, all of the shooting action, the cover system just 100% work from a gameplay perspective. And from an emulation perspective, this actually works relatively well, because I do have a foot pedal via USB that I hook up when I play these games, so I can in fact use that foot pedal like the original arcade cabinet had to be able to articulate that popping in and out of cover. Now you can 100% do it with a keyboard. You can assign space or any other key you want. Now, foot pedals for your computer are not that expensive, and if you do want to play a game like this, I highly recommend checking it out. But again, I just love this era of 3D. Everything looks like it's supposed to look, it just doesn't look correct as we know it now. This was basically that transitional period, and one of the reasons I love System 23 is because it feels like a home console we never got. It's more powerful than the PlayStation 1, definitely less powerful than the PlayStation 2. If this was a console, it would kind of sit in that 1997 to 1998 window, and that's why I really do think like this looks like 3DO M2, except that it doesn't have the texturing filtering of that system. And you know me, anytime I get to mention the 3DO M2 on this channel, I'm 100% going to take that opportunity. But back to the gameplay of Time Crisis 2, I just love the boss fights here. It's multiple stage, he's on the turret, then he has a rocket that he's just swinging around wildly. Then you go to a helicopter. Helicopters in light gun games are basically a must. If you don't see one, they weren't trying. Honestly, that's not really quite true. House of the Dead I don't think has any helicopters whatsoever, but it sounds like a good thing to say. I just love that this works. 2023 has been giving us so many new experiences. Namco System 10, System 23 here. Even on the Mr. FPGA side, we're getting so much new. It feels like 2023 is becoming the year of new experiences, and I absolutely love and advocate for these things happening, because obviously I want to play these games again. And it's weird that Time Crisis 2 seems to be a rare arcade cabinet. Leave me a comment down below and tell me if you know where there is one working, because I haven't seen one in the Chicagoland area in forever, nor have I seen one when I'm traveling, and that just really disappoints me, because I love this version that much more than the PlayStation 2. But I'm giving you one more sample of the soundtrack because it is quite good, and it does go to show that the sound emulation is basically perfect here on MAME. So listen for like 35 seconds this time, and I'll come back and tell you a little more about the game and close the video out. just sounds perfect, so I'm giving the sound emulation a 10 out of 10, the graphical emulation like an 8 out of 10, and at least on my system the speed a 10 out of 10 as well, because this is running exactly as I would expect it to. And that is the best part. Time Crisis 2 on MAME, if you have a powerful enough system, is 100% playable from start to finish, and you can absolutely enjoy it. And that didn't used to be the case whatsoever. This game basically would crash on launch, or if you could get it running, would crash very quickly. And it seems to be down to an unemulated memory module that was in the system. And don't forget, these bespoke arcade cabinets are difficult to emulate. A lot of the chips were one-offs. Namco designed the graphical subsystem for System 23 in-house, which means you can't just pull a white paper on something like a 3DFX chip that was in something like a Konami Viper and better understand what's going on. Although truth be told, Viper doesn't emulate whatsoever, and I'm really hoping in 2023 we see some improvements on that front as well. But if you've never played Time Crisis 2, you 100% owe it to yourself to check it out. And if you've never played it, I recommend the MAME version over the PlayStation 2 version, even if it does have a few graphical glitches, because this is the original Time Crisis 2 before it went under the PlayStation 2 knife and got that entire graphical upgrade, which is not bad whatsoever. I think it is still a pretty game, but for my money, the arcade original on System 23 is the way to play it. And you can do that today in MAME if you go download the recent revision. Short of that, leave me a comment down below if you got any questions or comments, but I'll be back next Friday with another random video, and I'll have videos throughout the week. That went boom, we go bye-bye.